Hey dudes, it's your boy WQQQQWRT, already know who it is. Yo, if there was one chapter that made this series not as good as the rest, that definitely is worse than the other few, it would definitely go to chapter 4. Nothing dramatic really happened. I felt like a lot of the info we got in the chapter, we either could have already assumed or we already knew. I wasn't that interested in it. Plus Emma's character, although I do like her character and I like how Norman and Ray are supposed to set her up to be a great character, and I think she has a lot of potential. I wasn't really digging exactly what was going on in this chapter. Do I think Norman really loves Emma? Honestly, I think it's possible that that's a front, but at the same time these kids are 11, and why would that be a front? Like, for what purpose? What ulterior motive does he have? He can't really have one, so maybe not, maybe he really does. And that's kind of why I think I was disappointed with this chapter, and most people were. Now, I still like the chapter. I actually really like the series, so I'm gonna hold back. But again, like, some of the problems were the fact that she's a lot of people criticizing like her over idealistic approach to saving everyone, and then they're also criticizing this like love triangle, and those are my two concerns too, because like I mean, I just don't see any way she can save all the kids. It might happen, they could force it, I would be okay with that, but then it's just not realistic, and it kind of makes her character weak too. Maybe not weak, but I don't know, I wasn't really digging it. Plus, this Norman, I mean, the whole Norman Emma thing, if a love triangle with Ray develops out of that, can't say I'm excited. I'm not that interested in that going down. What purpose does it serve to the story at all? I felt like the humor in this chapter was a little forced, but enough about being critical about this chapter, because it was okay. I mean, I don't think it was a bad chapter. Actually, I think this series is really good. I think it has a lot of potential, and I did notice some things in this chapter that I didn't notice in previous chapters, and I think the author was trying to tell us something. Look at the last page here. The numbers on Ray's neck. 81194. That's really interesting because Emma and Norman have the same combo of numbers for the last three numbers. They're all 194, and actually I looked at the rest of the students. I looked in the past few chapters, and most of the students end with a 194. Some of them end with a 294. I found one kid who's 5412, and then you can't see the last number, so you have to wonder about that. And then Mama's number is, I think her number is 75384, so she has an 84, she has 384. What does that mean? I have no idea, but it might relate to their intelligence levels or their capability levels, because look at the last page of the chapter 1. It shows their test scores and it shows their numbers, and Norman's at the top. He has perfect test scores, and he ends with a 194, and then next up is Ray, and he doesn't quite have perfect test scores, but he's close, and then he's a 81194, and then next up is Emma, who's under him, and she also has a 94, and I think there's either a fourth 194 or it goes into 294, and so I'm guessing that, actually, you know, there has to be a fourth 194. Actually, thinking about it, I'm going to have to relook at that. I'm probably going to make a video on this too, because it's an interesting topic. Like, what exactly do these numbers mean? Because again, these numbers have to have been there since birth, or since young childhood, right, before they're 6 at least. So it's like, what exactly do these numbers mean? You know, they can't be, are they barcodes? I don't really think they are. Plus, actually, I think it's pretty important because the author does a very good job of hiding the second half of the numbers. Like, almost throughout this series, you can see the first half of the numbers. You know, this is the best example. You can see the 8-1 on Ray, you can see the 2-2 in Norman. You can't see the second half of their necks, and that's very consistent. So the few pages you can see the second half, there's very few of them, and usually they're like important pages. So what exactly is the author trying to tell us with that? Also, rereading this series, I realized that Emma's forced humor, it wasn't as forced as I thought in this chapter. Reading through chapter 1, she has a lot of the similar character aesthetics, character principles, so it didn't feel too unreasonable. Plus, actually look at Norman's character in the same light. Chapter 1, again, he goes to a lot of lengths to help her, just seemingly like randomly. And even in chapter 2 and 3, so it's actually not as random as I thought reading this chapter. And then also, we gotta talk about the prison break attitude, because I mean, this series could go so many different routes, and prison break is one of them. And apparently, I mean, the author, I guess, the writing team, they just straight up said this is a Prison Break manga early on, and I'm not really excited for a Prison Break manga, honestly. I think maybe that'd be cool, but I'm not too hyped for it. But hey, you know what? Maybe I think there's more to it. I think it's going to develop, so not too worried about it. Actually, the last thing I wanted to talk about is what's outside of this world, and then the year 2045. I don't think it's entirely demon infested outside of the world, because Mama's trying to get out too, right? So how can it be infested if she's also trying to get out, and she knows she can get out, right? So if the demons are more common, or they are the rulers, it's not entirely, it's not entirely totalitarian. There is some hope. So I think they will get out. Now, I also don't think Mama's necessarily an enemy. And I go back to chapter 1. Look at chapter 1. There's a car. Some of these demons are way too big to fit in the car. I think one of them's like kind of normal size, and then one of them's like clearly too large. Plus, there's 3 demons, and there's only 2 seats in this truck anyway. So, where exactly? What's going on there? Plus, look at the dialogue in chapter 1, and I'm not going to reference it. Go back and reread it if you want to, or just take my word, or don't believe me. But basically, in chapter 1, Mama doesn't seem like she has the friendliest dialogue with these demons, and it leads me to believe I don't necessarily think she's an enemy. Also, with that being said, I don't think Connie's necessarily dead. I was rereading it. It was framed that Connie was dead. It was heavily implied or suggested. But again, look at the panels. They put her in a vat of like some sort of brine, usually, I guess, to preserve her body, which I guess maybe she's dead for that reason. You're trying to preserve it. But apparently these things eat humans, and they eat the skin, which is interesting too, because Emma said they're after our brains, or Emma and Norman concluded that they're after our brains, but the demons were after their skin, if you go back to chapter 1. And also, how would have Connie have died at all? There was a rose in her chest, maybe in her heart. It was hard to tell. But why would a rose kill her? I was thinking it was an anesthetic, and they put her in the vat to preserve her or something. I'm not entirely certain. I'm not convinced she's dead, though. And that does kind of go back to my last point, which is the this unreliable narrator in Emma, or just in all the kids. Whatever conclusions they come to, generally in a story, if someone comes to a conclusion, usually you can just go with it, right? Because otherwise, the writer's trying to tell you something. But in some series, especially this, when they come to the conclusion, it's not necessarily the truth, and maybe purposely they'll come to the wrong conclusion to throw readers off. I'm not sure if this story's set up like that because it's only 4 chapters in, but look at chapter 1, and there's a lot of inconsistencies with what the kids are finding than with what's actually going on in the story, and so I'm not so certain that what the kids are finding is 100% reliable. And actually, I'm going to go a little bit farther, and here come out the theories. I love coming out with theories. You guys already know that. Check this panel out. This is the first page, and I hope you can see it in the camera. But look at that panel. It says, Ray, it says, sits a boy yet to realize the truth. So we're thinking the truth of the demons, right? But look at the background. It shows Mama, it shows him, and I've already pointed out, they look very similar. I thought that he was her son. And it says, sits yet to learn the truth, right? But this chapter, he learns the truth. It's not that big of a deal. He comes to the conclusion, and then they're surprised by how quickly and how calmly he comes to these conclusions, right? I mean, it's not a big deal for him. He hits it, right? So why have this first page to hype up this truth when it's a complete non-issue? I'm going with there being some symbolism in this chapter, or not symbolism. What's the word? I don't know, but. I'm thinking Mama is biologically his mother, and that's also the reason I don't think she's necessarily evil, or maybe Ray is not necessarily a good guy too, because I think the truth that he's yet to learn is of Mama, of what is her role and how that's related to him. And actually, that's my real last point. My real last point is that Ray and Norman's characters, from my understanding 4 chapters in, they're designed to make Emma look good, to let her stand out, to make her character grow, right? To make her character develop. And we're seeing that a lot in Norman. We haven't really seen that come out of Ray. And I would think that Ray could really help her character if he wasn't completely aligned with her. Plus, it would be an interesting dichotomy with Norman. You got Norman, who is completely attached to her, and then you have the opposite, where Ray is like going against her wishes. You know, where Norman's going for her wishes. He'll do anything to save her or help her. Ray will do anything to not help her because his allegiance is with Mama character. Because that's interesting too, because Mama and Emma have polar opposite goals, right? Whatever Emma's trying to do actually hurts Mama, but in the same token, whatever Mama's trying to do would hurt Emma. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave you with that. I'm gonna leave you guys with those thoughts on this chapter, Promised Neverland, chapter 4. I thought this chapter definitely, again, I felt like it's the most underwhelming of this series, and but with that being said, I still like this chapter. I think this series is really good. Like, it's at least really hype, and it can sell really well. I'm certain of that. So anyway, I'm gonna get it here. It's your boy WQQQQWRT. Thanks for watching my review. I'll see you guys later. Make sure you like and comment.
Y'all, please do not forget to like and subscribe.